Got Lucy and James here. Thank you for your time this week. It's been incredible. The first question I'd just like to start off with, I guess, how did you get into coffee farming? Why here? Why this particular beautiful spot?
It's probably more driven by me. I grew up close by, and my dad had worked in New Guinea, so he was always bringing down PNG coffee from the highlands, and we even had a coffee tree in my backyard when I was growing up. But after a long career in mining, I wanted to do something in agriculture, but I wasn't sure what. And Dad, being a botanist, said, "Well, this is very similar to the highlands of New Guinea. I think you could grow pretty amazing coffee here." And so we pulled up everything from what had been our home in WA for 20 years and relocated up here to start the coffee farm. So we were both coffee lovers, but we weren't coffee professionals by any means. Like we weren't baristas. We weren't
very quickly.
Yeah. So well, I guess it was just knowing that we had the beautiful countryside, knowing that we had some support on getting the trees going that got us started here.
Yeah, cool, amazing. And yeah, I guess you said your dad was a botanist, and he obviously spent time in the PNG highlands. I guess how much influence did that have on you wanting to produce coffee here?
I think well, we knew we could make something exceptional at this southern end of the tablelands. It's a lot cooler. We're over 1,000 metres altitude. We get loads of misty, covered days, and everything we'd read about, really interesting coffees. I was particularly interested in some of the Central American coffees where you're getting a lot of mist from the Atlantic side in particular. I thought, we've got some potential here, and why not give it a go? So we just put our savings in and gave it a go. We're in our 9th year now, so it's working out all right.
So you started, what, 2016 then?
17, we put in the first plants out in the home garden.
Yeah.
And but probably didn't put in sort of serious plantings until sort of 18, 19, 20 is when we were putting in a few thousand plants a year. So we've got about 30,000 trees out in the paddocks now.
Yeah, cool. I guess that probably flows into our first couple of questions as well. So 2 of them was from David Flood, current Victorian Brewers Cup champion. He said, what varieties, elevation of coffee do you have? And then how big is the farm, and how does that compare to other farms in other countries?
Yeah, well, like Lucy was saying, it's the altitude. The average altitude's about 1,000 metres. Some sections a bit over 1,000, but 1,070 is probably the highest sections we have. So yeah, that's sort of the altitude. The varieties we're growing mainly Cattaway Rojos, red Cattaway, and a little bit of Bourbon K7 as well. So probably about, I don't know, what would it be, 20% of it K7.
Yeah.
The rest of it Cattaways.
Yeah. In the early years, we put out a lot of different varieties. We went to the local Department of Industries and we collected seeds of Caturra, different Bourbons, different Cattaways, Typicas, Mundo Novo, Marigajipi, is that how you say it? Yeah, the elephant bean.
Yeah.
So we put out lots of that in the early days, but I got pretty stuck on Cattaway pretty early because, one, there was access to seeds, but I just love the way it grew here. It's just really dense, lush foliage. And we all know that's the powerhouse for the coffee cherries. So
high yielding as well.
Yeah. So that's my favourite at the moment. But we're trialling, all the usual suspects of new ones and some that people may not have heard of either.
Yeah, cool. Can you discuss any of the
some
varieties
of them.
that are...
So we're trialling some Marsellesa, Paraiso, IPR 7. Yeah. 107. IPR 107.
Yeah.
And some others that we won't discuss.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Secrets.
Yeah. And you said 1,000 metres above sea level, but I guess is it latitude? Latitude plays a big role. So
17 degrees south here. So
yeah.
If you look at somewhere like Nicaragua, the northernmost coastline is 15 degrees north of the equator. So most of that country is sort of closer to the equator than we are. So yeah, we're obviously a bit further south, makes it a bit cooler.
Further south. I mean, what does that compare to somewhere like Brazil or?
Yeah, Brazil goes through 17 degrees south as well. Peru.
Okay, so it's on the same latitude as those countries.
Yeah.
And like somewhere like Panama, what's that?
That's very close. It's about 8 degrees north of
Yeah.
the equator. So
Yeah, okay.
The equator.
that's closer, but it's a higher country as
They
well.
have to grow a lot higher up there to get the same sort of conditions that we get.
Yeah, cool. All right, what else do we have here? We had more from David. He was very, very keen to answer some questions. What percentage of picked cherries make it into our cup after floaters, defects, etc.? And probably I can preface a little bit, obviously being here for like the last week, and it really depends on what it means, whether you're hand picking, if that's being harvested and then sorted after harvesting, what kind of year you've had as well. We obviously maybe can chat a little bit about that as well, how the 2025 harvest has gone, because we obviously were expecting, very, very good yields in cherry, and then you had some rain in early September. So I guess it's probably not a straight answer for this one, but I guess maybe we can just discuss, what percentage of those coffees in maybe the different style of picking and actually makes it into our cup of coffee.
Yeah, oh look, it's some farms 100% of what's picked will make it into a cup somewhere. So you've got different levels of coffee. Last year we threw out maybe 50% of our cherry because I didn't have much storage space here. So anything that floated, gone. Threw out into the compost, into the cattle paddocks.
And floaters are lower density.
Yeah, lower density, yeah. So they could have ripened on the tree. They could have been damaged by insects or rubbing on the tree. They could be defects, hollow cherries. There's a number of things that make the coffee float. But this year we decided to keep some floaters, and we're still evaluating the success of that. It's been a really challenging year. We got 200 mils of rain at the start of harvest season. So what was going to be our biggest crop and our biggest yield ever swelled on the trees, and then split, dried. Ironically, they dried after all that rain and fell off the trees. So we've ended up with loads of floaters this year, which has dropped our yields dramatically. But having said, it's sad, but we get to do loads of experiments on how do we deal with a bad year now. What sort of microbes are going to work for us, what sort of processing styles are going to work with us, and you guys and others have been up here, trialling all different methods to see if we can get some useful data out of that.
Yeah, cool. And I guess with the processing, maybe we can talk a little bit about that. So you said you can experiment with some different processing in a bad year. What's the kind of main processes that you do with your coffees?
I guess it depends on, because you haven't got that nice quality cherry, it's harder to do stuff like naturals and honey process, which we have done a lot of last year. We did a lot of that. We try to just do a cleaner wash process, ferment it for 48 hours or something like that, and just wash it to make it as clean as we can. It's about all you can really do with some of that stuff. We have done very small batches of naturals and things this year, but unfortunately not as much as we would have normally done.
Because you need that good quality cherry to do those sorts of...
You want all those sugars, you've got the skin of the coffee, and then you've got the seed in the middle, and in between there's all these lovely sugars. So, when we've got that lovely prime cherry, we can do all sorts of different types of fermentations using different yeasts or bacterias or enzymes or simple honey process. But when all those sugars have sort of withered on the tree, you're left with the raw seed, which can be great, but there's just not much to play with there in terms of experimenting.
Yeah, you can. We do use things to help, almost not to make the flavour better, but to protect it from getting worse, I guess. So, like that stuff that ripens on the tree can have fungus on it, so we put microbes in to sort of kill all that during processing, or to minimise that, I guess, to minimise any more off flavours. So it's kind of more defensive use of them this year rather than trying to add more with them.
And what kind of microbes do you add? I know you play around a lot with some different yeasts and bacterias in your fermentations. What are some of the uses, and why would you use one over another?
There are things like lactic bacteria that we've used to be good for that bioprotection, that stop bad funguses and stuff from developing. So we used a bit of that this year.
Yep.
We do have access to quite a few different strains of yeast that we use. So, wash coffee we use more like the Saccharomyces strains, and the naturals process we use other strains that we have access to. So, yeah, we try and use the yeast tend to add more, I guess, to the coffee, whereas the bacteria generally protects it more. So we use them both, I guess, in different situations.
Yeah.
We've tried just about everything. In the early days, we'd go to the local brewing shop and just pick up every type of beer, cider, wine, yeast and bacteria we could find and do bucket trials. Then with Owner Coffee, we did those great trials a few years ago using Pichia and lactic bacteria strains.
With you, Kelly.
With you, that was brilliant. And then in the last couple of years, we've used some of the commercial coffee yeasts from Lalamad, and we're working with another yeast supplier at the moment, just trying to see what works for our particular ecosystem here, our terroir. The use of microbes is really interesting to us.
We got the dogs. So
they're good guard dogs when they're not sleeping
here
yet.
At the front. But yeah, we're obviously finishing off talking about all the fermentation and stuff like that. I had a question from Ming, who's head barista at Honor Melbourne, and he was asking, do you use the coffee cherry or cascara for any desserts or drinks or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a challenge to keep it with mechanical depulping, because you can end up with sort of really nice prime skins and overripe skins and dry skins and that. But we have in the past. We've made coffee jam, or coffee cherry jam. So that's just taking all those skins, boiling it up with a heap of sugar and making jam, like a cherry jam.
Quince paste sort of thing.
Well, when we
beautiful,
strain
the
it and
cheese.
make a jelly, that's what you do. We found in the back of the cupboard last night a 4-year-old jar of cascara jelly, let's call it.
Yeah.
And it rivals some of the best quince paste we've had with that beautiful goat's cheese. So we've done that. Keeping the skins for a tea is possible, but you focus on so many things when you're harvesting the coffee and processing the coffee, and primarily like looking after those seeds. The skins sort of get forgotten about, and they ferment really fast, and you get all bugs and I imagine sort of wild bacterias and that building up there. So, we've kept cascara in the past, but it's a bit of an effort that we haven't been able to put much focus on. So
It's
makes a
very
good
niche as well.
yeah.
Not a lot of people interested in it.
Yeah. But unless it's a mixer drink.
Yeah.
Cascara tea mojitos or something like
that's
that.
good.
And you also, drying space probably a bit of a limitation for you guys at the moment as well. So it's just,
Yeah.
you probably don't really have the drying space to put the attention towards something like cascara. But what do you do with the coffee cherry skins then? They just go out in the paddock for...
Yeah, compost and cattle
Compost.
food. Yeah, we got cattle who come right up to the sheds. They love it. I'm sure it's good for them. They're good quality cattle.
Yeah, they're jumping around.
high sugar drink for them or food for them.
It's got all that sugar in it. Got a bit of sweetness. Gives them a bit of vigour.
Yeah, very cool. We had a question from Jeffrey as well about the use of AI or I guess technology in coffee farming in terms of predicting weather or tracking. Is there anything that you guys are using in that space, or how are you utilising technology in coffee farming?
Yeah, it's definitely something we're trying to progress a bit more every year, but we're tracking the coffee all the way through from the paddock, from like what row it was pulled from, and then what was done to it, the fermentation that was done, and all the measurements, moisture, pHs, all those things that happen along the way is all stored in our database now. So we have quite a lot of data. Not really using much AI on it, but I would like in the future to do more predictive things, like with the drying, how long drying's going to take, given the weather conditions, which we're also tracking, and the type of coffee and all that stuff, so we can be more efficient with our drying.
Yeah, because you're a software engineer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, we're both
As a
engineers,
day job.
so we do like technology.
Yeah, and you built the website and the app for all the tracking as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, try and track everything as much as we can, and then we can apply, once we have a good data set, we can apply more AI and predictive tools to it.
Yeah, one thing we've talked about before is the provenance of the coffee. So, with the data that James is collecting and tracking, we can get all the way through to roasted coffee and cupping, and then trace back. Well, we know when and how it was dried, the step before that, when and how it was processed and fermented, which rows it came from. So that's really useful data for us to take forward into planning for future years. But it's also cool for our consumers to be able to see that full value chain of our coffee, which part of the hill it came from and how it ended up in their cup.
Oh, that's so cool. And you mentioned with drying, you'd like to be able to use it for more predicting the kind of drying process. What are the main challenges, and how would that help you kind of predict the drying process of the coffee?
I guess for us it's space. We have limited space for drying, so we prefer to dry on African beds, on racks, really, because it gives you good results, but you need a lot of space for that. So if we could know more accurately how long everything will take, you can plan better what you're going to harvest, what you're going to process, so that it maximises the throughput of the drying space as much as we can. That's important, and the quality, I guess, as well. If we can tie it eventually to the cupping quality that we get from a certain method, as we saw when we did that cupping the other day.
Yeah.
Same coffee, one was machine dried, one was bed dried, and the machine dried was not as good as the
makes a big
bed
difference.
dried. But we have to do machine drying sometimes just because of lack of space. So we put the lower quality in that thing usually.
Yeah.
Your experiment is going to give us some good data on drying, because we can machine dry, we can greenhouse dry, we can outside dry, but your experiment with the slow cool drying inside.
Expensive.
Yeah, well, it might be expensive, but if it gives us considerably better results, well, then we've got to sort of turn our heads to, well, how could we do that at scale?
Delivery shed.
Yeah.
There's so much scope for technology in coffee farming. I think there's endless things you can do. But drying's so critical. If being able to control it better, you can raise, if you get 3 or 4 points improvement just from drying, then it's sort of worth investing in something better, a big sort of drying warehouse type thing.
Because at the moment in the raised beds, it's in a greenhouse. Yeah. But that obviously fluctuates in temperature a little bit.
Yeah, it'll vary up to 20 degrees between night and day, sometimes only 15 on a normal day, and the humidity goes up and down a bit. We try to control that, but it's not that possible.
And even measuring it, like we've been taking some moistures throughout the day. It obviously gets very humid overnight, so the coffee absorbs the moisture. So if you take the reading in the morning when it's humid, it's probably reading higher than maybe what it actually is. And then you take it during the middle of the day, it's lower, and then later in the day. So even when you're taking those measurements is really important as well.
Yeah, well, it's one good thing with our systems, you can sort of plot the slow progression down to the target, but it does go up and down with the time of day.
And what are you drying it down to?
We usually 11% is the target, but we sometimes go a little bit lower just to keep it more safe from fungus and things like that. Maybe in the 10 to 11 range.
Yeah, we don't go less than 9. We know there's going to be some reabsorption because this is a really humid, misty mountain that we live on. So even though we keep it in controlled conditions, and we know 11's safe. In previous years, we've not only done the actual moisture reading, but the water activity within those. Within each individual seed, and we've learned a bit about how the stabilisation of the seed from reducing that water activity level.
And have you found, like, how long after processing and drying does that water activity stabilise?
Probably takes a month, really.
At least.
To get it stable. So even if the moisture meter says it's good, when it comes off the bed, there'll be patches that are a bit higher, patches that are a bit lower, and sort of equalises in storage over about a month.
Some of our coffees do well from a really extended rest period. I know last year's naturals, which we just tasted, we kept that in its skins, so we didn't even take it the skins off for at least 6 months. And so, but it was kept in a very stable humidity and temperature, but in its skins, and that gave us great results. So
skins buffer it a bit as well, like they keep it controlled with like a little blanket, I suppose, around each seed.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, the tasted amazing. I mean, it's 12 months on now, and it spent 6 months in the skins, but those naturals are amazing. So maybe there's something in that new
gotta-
process you've discovered out of an accident.
Yeah, you just
Out
got
of necessity.
I mean, there is a risk if it got really damp, then the skin would reabsorb a lot worse than maybe the green bean on its own.
Yeah,
So
you've got to
you
keep
get
it in that
mould.
dehumidified room.
Yeah,
So,
keep the climate control. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And then we had one last question from my colleague Connor, and he was interested in the challenges of coffee farming, but specifically coffee farming in Australia as well.
oh, geez, see.
Where do you start?
Every day's a challenge. Okay, there's one I've always said, not enough people know that coffee's even grown in Australia. So it's overcoming that hurdle that, yep, Australian grown coffee exists. Two, if they know it exists, but there's been perceptions that it's not, the quality that of some of the, really good specialty coffees. So overcoming that challenge to try and grow, process, and I roast as well, present the coffee in the best way. Three, access to good new equipment. All the good coffee equipment is made in Colombia and Brazil, the other side of the world for us. So, it costs a fortune for us to buy that in US dollars and to get it freighted over here. And just to have that relationship with the suppliers to really understand, to fix things and our farm needs and what equipment we need. So, James and I have sort of cobbled together our equipment, second-hand equipment, and working out what processes work best for us, because there's just not that coffee history in Australia. But, I think we've proved that we can make awesome coffee here. It's that scaling up now, which is our big challenge.
Yes.
And the weather.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always a challenge. It's unusual. I mean, every coffee region's different, but here the rain, the dry season it's never very predictable. It's supposed to be the dry season now, but it'll still rain at the wrong time, of course.
Yeah.
Whereas in some regions it's much more predictable when the dry season comes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were picking coffee on Tuesday. No, we were mechanical harvesting on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then we were planning on doing it all that day because there was meant to be 50 mils of rain
Yeah.
on Wednesday. And I don't think we've had 1 mil
Exactly.
at all since then. So
Yeah.
That's the hard bit, is predicting. And if it does come like that, we had that terrible, we had a beautiful looking crop, and then we had sort of nearly 200 mils of rain in about 2.5 days.
Wow.
And we, predicting that was going to happen, we didn't, even the weather forecast didn't show that until about 3 days beforehand, so you don't have much time to prepare.
Yeah.
And how much rain, once the cherries are ripe, how much rain would it take for it to damage the crop like that? Is it 50 mils is quite a lot, 100 mils?
50 mils is a lot for this time of year, so that's probably going to do the damage. I'm not sure, what the exact number was. We know 200 mils was too much.
If you get, it depends, the soil was quite dry before that happened, so that helps in some ways. If the soil was already saturated, even 15 mils can be enough to make the coffee split. But
Yeah.
Oh, so it absorbs through the soil? Not...
yeah, the
Well,
plant sucks it
both,
up,
yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Right.
And then because it just expands and expands the cherry because of all this water suddenly, and then it'll just pop and split.
Yeah.
Just see it's like it's being cut with a knife. There's a split line down the side.
And you can't get the harvester up and down our hills if it's too wet and slippery. It's just too dangerous and crazy out there. Last year we didn't have a lot of rain in volume, but we had a succession of really misty days. So all sorts of foreign bacterias and that were coming into the coffee cherries. So that also caused us a bit of problem. But
It's less of an issue. We can
yeah,
manage
yeah.
that
I
better.
mean, every farmer gets this stuff. We can't change the weather. I'd love to have the ability and processing to be able to respond no matter what sort of weather we're going to get. So if we're going to get a good run of hot, dry days, make honeys that work beautifully in those conditions. This last year is going to be a lot more, or this current harvest is going to be a lot more washed, processed, because we've had a lot of those sugars consumed on the trees. We just got to be able to respond to that changing climate.
Yeah, you can't change the wind, but you can set your sails,
Yeah,
as
exactly.
they say.
Exactly.
That's also interesting as well, I think, as baristas and on the consuming side of things, we just think, oh yeah, we want this process and, we're just going to have that. But all those different conditions affect how you're actually going to process that coffee and what's possible
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure we'll get people saying, "Oh, your honeys were great last year. Can we have some more, please?" Well, actually, we can't really give you much this year.
But if you had even said to me at the start of September, oh, look, we want to mobilise some people and pick 3 tonnes of prime cherry, I would have said, yeah, no worries. And then we get smashed by the rain and you can't find 3 tonnes of prime cherry. So, you can have all the indicators there to plan what processes you're going to do with your crop. And we're lucky in Australia, on our farm, we can choose our process. A lot of farms elsewhere in Australia and in the world, they're just locked into one process. So if their weather changes, they've just got to deal with it.
Yeah, I guess we're lucky to have access to things like microbes a lot more as well. Some areas in the world probably don't have that access, so we can control things better in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the other thing, which is pretty common throughout the whole coffee supply chain, but like labour costs. I know we were out picking, I think the best we could do is about 10 kilos in a whole day. And yeah, for those who don't know, about 10 kilos of cherry, you pretty much divide that by 5 with what that's going to give you in green coffee.
Yeah.
And then, 15, 20% for roast loss. So
Yeah.
in one day, I could probably pick 1.5 kilos
Of roasted coffee.
Yeah. So it's not a lot.
That's why in Australia the real focus is on machine harvesting, because it's the only economic way to do large scale.
So our best pickers, hand pickers that we've had out here are blueberry pickers, and they'll pick like 4 or 5 kilos of prime an hour if there's enough prime on the trees. Well, so you didn't have there's not much prime on the trees at the moment.
True, yeah, it was a bit harder, right?
So but even when they're picking at that rate, that makes the cost of the roasted coffee around $40 or $50 a kilo without adding any of those other costs. So, it becomes very, very expensive coffee to pay hand pickers. But we love making some of those really interesting natural processed coffees. So, we're prepared to invest a bit in that for the knowing that we're learning and making good quality coffee.
Yeah, I guess it's just the business. You have the premium, high-end, small stuff like that. It's hand-picked, and then you have the bulk, lower quality, but that ends up paying bills. But it's nice to do both, or you have to do both, I guess, if you want to run the business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see with those like smaller lot naturals as well, just like what's possible as well.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, how do we find a way to scale that up? So it might seem impractical to, dry in the temperature controlled cool room, nice and dark, turning it every couple of hours, got the fans on them for the first couple of days. But yeah, if you can use that same thinking and let's see if we can scale that up or what we need.
Exactly.
There's technologies like colour sorting that we've already got a colour sorter, but looking at another one that could potentially do, so you make machine harvest but then sort the really good stuff from it later on. So it's sort of a bit like hand picking or closer to hand picking.
Because you've got a green colour sorter, but you don't have anything for cherry yet.
Not that works well with cherry, no.
Not that works well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess is there any other last comments at all that you want people to know about Australian coffee, Crater Mountain?
No, I mean, we set up to grows to prove that you could grow great Australian coffee. We love working with the other growers in North Queensland and in northern New South Wales. It's a really supportive group of people, and our Coffee Growers Association is now getting much more active. So that's got all the Australian coffee growers represented there, and we're starting to look for government funding for new variety trials and things like that. So we just want people to drink more Australian coffee, and in general know how much effort that goes into making a lot of effort goes into making a mediocre cup of coffee, and there's a lot more effort to go into making an awesome cup of coffee. So if people want to find out more about us, just go on our website, Crater Mountain, and look us up.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy roasted coffee as well. Lucy's an amazing
for sure,
roaster.
Yeah.
The whole range is there.
Yeah.
If you've never tried Australian coffee, you've got to get onto it for sure.
And thanks to you guys for helping us so much this week and giving us a bit of inspiration with the experiments. Harvest season is hard work, and it's really nice to get some sort of fresh energy in the place and James and I are born nerds, so we love to
Yeah.
experiment too. So.
Oh, I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys letting us have as much free reign as we had as well. We've transformed your green storage room, and it's got coffee dried in there and all sorts.
Some
So.
things we haven't tried before. There's
Yeah.
the other experiment where you separated out all the colour fractions.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Interesting to
that'd
see.
be cool as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, thank you guys. It's been an amazing week, and yeah, I mean, yeah, Claudia from El Arbol in Nicaragua kind of inspired me to come up here because we went there and it was a 40-hour transit, and then
Yeah.
she's like, "You got coffee farms in Australia?" It's like, "You come all this way for?"
Yeah.
So 3-hour flight from Melbourne.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
easy.
I
Then
appreciate
an
it.
hour drive, about an hour drive from Cairns as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's
easy.
beautiful up here. Yep.
Cool. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cut.